Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was my stomach.
That's impressive.
This is It Has Pockets.
A podcast about celebrating our everyday and sharing the things we are holding. I'm Abby.
And I'm Laura. I want to talk about art, but more specifically, the kind of art that we can have in our daily lives, because as a parent with young children, creativity just isn't present in my day-to-day.
Well, I would say
And
creativity
art
is always present, but it's sometimes different.
It's not
than...
the nourishing creativity that I want. It's not the creativity that replenishes my need for art and fulfills myself.
You probably had a time where you really sought out certain kinds of art and made that part of your life, and then you had kids, and most likely those things didn't mix. The ways in which I would pursue art in my 20s is not how.
When you say pursue, that just means us consuming art.
Right, pursue as an audience.
Oh my gosh, we used to watch so many movies. Loved movies. In another world, my calling of sorts would have been film and TV. I have such a passion for that industry. And even now, some of my closest friends are still active in that industry. I mean, we watched Oppenheimer and it took 2 days.
That's the thing, is that we'll sit down at the end of the night and me and my husband look at each other and be like, I want to watch a movie, but I know I can't give the attention to a really good cinema.
You have to get yourself ready for it.
And I'm like, I don't even want to watch this movie in a haze, you know?
Yeah.
So I do feel like I have this list of movies that someday, when I'm living a different kind of life, I'll go back and watch. Maybe just the day where bedtime is not a
Gosh,
full
isn't
World
that
War
the
III.
truth? Yeah.
That's the one. Laura's painting her nails while we're talking.
I am. I'm painting my nails.
This is how we are today.
Sorry, I don't have the kind of just hour off where no kids are bothering me.
How many things can we do?
Okay, so I did not realize how art was such a necessity in my life and my day-to-day until it felt like it was gone.
I am nodding my head.
All of a sudden, every day is very structured routine, and as we kind of get into this new chapter where it's not so much about raising babies, I've just found that all of a sudden I'm like, wow, the desire to create something is so huge. The desire to just even consume art, color, activate my brain in that way. I just find myself missing it a lot.
Well, and I would say, as someone who has always actively known that they are creative and love art, that's just been a huge part of my personhood my whole life. I have realized that other people don't understand how much art is impacting them. I think we live in a capitalist society that very much values art that is...
has a function.
Yeah, that has profit connected to it. And not that that's bad, but that sort of leaves a lot of art mediums kind of in the dust. And I actually made a list here of all these different things.
Stop, let's hear it.
That are artistic, that we are probably around either, and even if we're not making it, we are consuming it, we're creating it, we're interacting with it.
Okay.
So we've got movies, TV, anything that is on a screen. All of that is art. Music. That can be music you're listening to. It can be live performances. Music is an art. Obviously, when we think of art, we immediately think of paintings, drawings.
Yeah.
I think that's where people think of art. I said makeup and clothes is a very big art form that doesn't get thought of as artistic unless you're somebody that is
true.
Maybe out of the ordinary.
That's true. I mean, I personally struggle with differentiating where it is rooted in patriarchy and where it's rooted in our own desire to be creative.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of makeup and...
But again, that's a whole other topic.
It is. It's another topic, but there's a way that clothes and makeup have become, you have to do that to be something, to show up as something. But there's another side of how we show up in the world for ourselves and with others that's very artistic.
Yeah.
And then obviously literature, so books.
Oh, yeah.
Books are art. So not only are just books with words on it that are adult books that we read are art, but now as a mom, picture books are art. Graphic novels are art in both a visual and a mental way.
Very true.
And then the other one that I have on here that I'm probably going to focus on in this episode, items. Like household items, decorative things, but also just even functional items are forms of art. And we kind of put that to the side and we think, well, that's just like home decor or home. How we dress our home is a form of engaging with creativity and art.
That's true.
You're interacting with your items in your house. Any time an item goes beyond simply functional, beyond being a tool, it's art. And a lot of times things are both, right?
Honestly, I've never really thought about what qualifies something as art. Whoa. I can feel myself going off of the train. This is a huge topic,
and it's one of my favorites.
It is, I know.
And it's one of your favorites. But I wanted to just expand.
One of my favorites.
I wanted to expand like people's idea of like when you're walking through your life, you're probably interacting with art more than you are aware of. And
Absolutely.
You're probably being more creative than you think you are.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about
I find myself trying to explore these different ways that fit into my life. Like, let's talk about the ways that we are interacting with art and ways that we are trying to be intentional about it. We've talked about you and me both being into cross stitch.
I really love the process of creating a space, making a quiet moment for yourself, the extended time you have to put into it, right? All of those are practices.
I get that. For me, it's not. Artistic. For me, it's really more, I feel like, an anxiety calmer for me.
But that's creativity. That's saying that me as a person, I'm having an emotion, I'm having a need, and I'm going to be creative in how I address this part of me.
Oh, okay.
I think that art, for me, as a homeowner, as a mom, as somebody who my space in my family right now is very centered in one area.
Yes.
Which was not happening when I was in my early 20s before I was married.
Okay.
I felt like I was the center of my life more.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
absolutely,
I would take myself to a museum, or I'm going to go see a movie I wanted to see, reading a book.
Yeah.
I would take myself to go be part of art.
Yeah.
Experiences.
You could have those moments.
And there was this feeling of loss when I got married and I had babies, because I was like, I can't go do those things quite in the same way anymore. And even when I would try, the experience was less than ideal. Like, not all museums are made to have a nursing pooping baby in them. And it's hard when you like have no sleep, so you're just
I started asking for dates to museums. I started telling Kyle that if I would really love to have some regular dates where we just hit up our museums, and Fort Worth has a lot of really great museums like the Kimball Modern Art Museum, Amon Carter, put me down for the National Cowgirl Museum. I want to be present and be physically around art that stimulates my brain.
For me, realizing that in order to have art, I had to bring it into my space was a really big switch. It was something I was already kind of doing, right?
Yeah.
But the way I've actively collected and made art being part of our home in the last, I'd say 4 years, particularly when home became like the place we were.
Your home is notably artsy.
It's full of art. I feel like it's just been kind of a study on what it is like to learn to love things and bring them into your space. I feel like I'm surrounded by the things that I love, and I'm surrounded by things that inspire me, and that to me is truly living in my space. If you come here, you're not going to see a perfectly decorated home. Things are not going to match. Walls need to be painted, cupboards need to be put up, but everywhere you look, I think you could know that I live here.
Yes.
And that's important to me, and became important to me particularly in the last couple of years when I realized I was not able to go out and find the art that I wanted, but that I did have the power to bring it into my home. I know both you and I have bought art pieces from local artists, brought them into our home, and your children and my children know where that art comes from. They've met that artist. To have that relationship with art is really special, and something I think we don't realize is so formative.
That's really powerful.
I think it's really cool. And then the other thing that I'm realizing when I bring art into my house is that I'm really focused on making the making part of art.
Yeah.
And so we watch a lot of like TikToks and a lot of reels of how art is made. Oh. And my children have started to be able to identify different forms of art right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Right now we're really into the Great British like Pottery Throwdown show.
Oh.
And my 9-year-old the other day, I brought home something from the thrift store and said, "Is this made on a wheel? Is this glazed?" I'm like, "It absolutely is glazed."
Oh my gosh.
He could identify the piece as a particular form of art, and it makes the items that we put in their home purposeful.
We do a lot of physical movement around art. We do a lot of jumping around on a little baby trampoline, dancing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many dance parties. So a couple weekends ago, we just turned on Beyonce Homecoming.
Amazing.
And we were just like, watch this, guys.
But you found that like
But we do a lot of physical.
Because
yeah.
you like performative art.
I love performative art. Performative art is my jam.
Yeah.
Which I want to go into a little bit of that now that I got my top coat finished. So one of the things that we do a few nights a week that I feel like has altered my perception of art and what that looks like is RuPaul's Drag Race. It's streaming on Paramount, which of course we have for freaking Paw Patrol. And and I looked up where's the place to start. We'll probably end up rewatching the first few ones, but for now, whatever. We started at 6, and it has been kind of beautiful, obviously. Makeup in the art form, but also a window into the drag community that we, outside of the way white women appropriate queer Black people's sayings, outside of appropriation, I am admittedly not too familiar with that culture and all of the nuances that are present. And that also includes movement and includes humor. And there's also an entire sort of storyline around the way it's edited, because it's very in your face of a reality show that's not to be taken seriously, but is to be taken seriously. And that's been a huge benefit for us, just learning more about a queer community that we are not familiar with. It has been a really great experience watching it, learning, being able to see things. We understand what's going on.
Right, the nuances
we understand,
of the community. Yeah.
We also understand the incredible impact this show has and how it has changed lives. I could never, like, at the end, they have to lip sync for their life.
Okay.
so at the, I know but that's what makes it so great, because it's like at the end it's both dramatic but also not taking itself so seriously.
Right.
It's just a perfect sort of easy art form to absorb while also getting an inside look at a marginalized community in our world. And so 10 out of 10, highly recommend RuPaul's Drag Race. And also there's a book. What is the book that I read about reality TV? I should honestly just look it up. Reality TV book. Oh, I said boo, and then it brought me a honey boo boo. Reality TV. Okay, I got it. True story, what reality TV says about us. Danielle J. Lindman, PhD. And she just talks about the importance of reality TV and how that impacts our culture. And one of the really standout points that I loved was to stop calling reality TV guilty pleasures. It's just, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't say anything about you.
It's an art form.
Yes, so it's just another art form. Like, obviously, there's all kinds of problems with reality TV that have implications on our culture, as well as just legalities involved with those participating. But that is a separate topic. In this book, she talks about the way it reflects our society. But I loved the point of not calling it a guilty pleasure. And reality TV is so much a part of our world at this point.
So there is an essay about how books can be windows or mirrors. And it's such a helpful understanding when you think about art. A book can either show you, like a mirror, who you are. it's reflecting back to you. You see yourself, you see your experience in it. Or it's a window and you're seeing into an experience that you don't have. And that's like a very simple idea, but it's really important to me that my child is experiencing art, experiencing books that are also windows into other cultures, other ways and experiences that people have. There's a lot of times art is an actual window into experience you're not having. And any time that we can have that understanding and interest in that, is like creates empathy, it creates kindness. And I think that those are really important things for us. That's what art can do for us, is it can transport us to an experience that we wouldn't have on our own. Right now, I'm learning about Native Americans and Indigenous people because with the beat store, there is a long heritage with beading in that community.
Very much so.
I am doing a lot of self-study and understanding of what that community is, how they see art, how they see items. Like, that's not my community, right? That's not my culture. But I love the ability through art that I have to get to know about stuff that I wouldn't normally have access to. I think that's the power of art.
You bringing up Native American culture. Have you seen Killers of the Flower Moon?
I have not. The long list of movies I need to watch.
So I used to be way, way more heavily involved in Oscars, Golden Globes, Emmys. This is my Super Bowl. Like, it actually came up on my Facebook memories, which, most of it is usually trash. But this one was me in the first night that I kept my oldest son up to watch some of the Academy Awards whenever he was younger. And I know, showbiz is messed up, and I understand that there are all kinds of problems within the institution of celebrity culture, Hollywood, not getting into that, but I love film, and Killers of the Flower Moon is actually something I wrote down to talk about because it is so beautiful.
In that same vein, I've just watched a TV drama, it was Canadian, called Little Bird, that is top tier. Like, it has become one of my favorite TV shows ever. Little Bird. And it's talking about the experience that Indigenous people had where their children were being taken from them. And there was sort of this big sweep. It follows a girl who gets adopted by a Jewish family. It flashes back, but it's sort of set in the 70s, 80s. So you have these like clashes of cultures where you have this Jewish mother who lost family in the Holocaust, and then also she's having this relationship with her daughter who is coming to understand her own past and trying to figure out where she is in the world. And it was just so well done. It's beautiful. It's like
how long are episodes?
I think they're hours.
Where can you stream it?
It's PBS. The other one that's great is Reservation Dogs. Have you watched this?
Oh, I love Reservation Dogs. It's probably one of my top favorite series. It's so well done. Also, Kyle is from Oklahoma,
it's set in Oklahoma.
And his mom worked for the Cherokee Nation, so they come into the series having a different kind of familiarity with reservations, with the experiences of Indigenous people. It is wildly beautiful, heartbreaking, but funny. There's so much there
about that show, and this is something it's hard to sometimes find, is that it's not catering to me. As someone who doesn't understand the culture, they would drop these moments or drop these motifs that I'm like, I know that means something, but they're not talking to me. They're talking to other people that see that emblem and they know what it means, and they're not going to stop and like explain it to me. I have to go do the work.
Like, we find ourselves having conversations afterwards. Do you think that Indigenous people are more connected in a way than white people? And we find ourselves navigating these conversations, which I just think is really beautiful. But I love Reservation Dogs.
That's a great one. If you have not had Native American or Indigenous art forms as part of your life at all, that's something I would hand to somebody and be like, this is something you can learn. So that also goes back, kind of coming back around to other ways that we connect with art. That's why I love trying to find local artists with my kids and finding artists that are experiencing the world as I experience it by being local is like a really wonderful way.
Fort Worth has a very strong art scene.
Look up
artists in your neighborhood. It would be cool if you could filter Etsy by location. You can?
You absolutely can. Yes.
Stop.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
That's a great way I've actually done that before.
That's cool.
Yeah. Figuring out ways to support your local artists is is just
and just interact with
great...
art and not cut ourselves down. I think we tend to discount ourselves. And maybe that's just a habit of being a woman, going, this isn't me really engaging with art. This is me just watching. You know, I should be actually out there, involved, getting paint on my clothes and things like that.
Or if the art isn't highbrow enough, we can sometimes minimize it. So I'm a big believer of, again, surrounding yourself with things that you love. And it doesn't matter if it's what everyone would like. When you are keeping yourself from going towards art, again, remember all the forms, items that you really love and really work for you, but you're like, yeah, but this is childish, or this isn't cool, or this is not what I'm seeing in my other friends' homes. I would just see it as, no, I'm drawn to this kind of art, and articulate for yourself why. Maybe you love color.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with things that you love and that inspire you. Things that pull me to a sense of place. Either
like grounding?
Well,
or
when I look at a piece of art or an item in my home, it's either it should transport me to somewhere. And that place can either be an emotional place, right? Like I have joy. That makes me happy every time I see it. Or that reminds me of maybe something that's bittersweet or whatever. Like I have an emotion. Or it's a memory, right? So maybe I got it somewhere special. Or there's a story attached to it. Or it has sentimental value because of who gave it to me. Or I think the other option is it pulls me to a sense of dream, or like that's who I would like to be. That's really the space I would like to live more of my life in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A little aspirational?
Yeah. When I'm engaging in my art, I think of those things.
I guess I'm going to go home and stare at everything in my house and figure that out.
But I also, like, when I go to Laura's home, like, I know it's Laura's home. You have, like, an amazing piece of art in your bathroom that is a remake of a classic. She's local, right?
Yeah, she's a local artist.
We're going to show some of our favorite art on the Instagram.
I thought you meant in our, so in our other bathroom, I have some posters of, and it's a Renaissance guy holding his nose. And then a girl holding her nose, and they're looking down.
But that's the thing about Laura's art. It is a little bit irreverent. It's funny. Like, you like a little bit of humor.
Oh, yeah. That beautiful field, and then it has David Rose from Schitt's Creek in it with a pitchfork, just like very, very small. That's what I like.
That tells me so much about you. It really does. Like, these things tell me, like, things that are like, okay, so the one in her bathroom is an old classic Renaissance.
Yeah.
Probably. Medieval. It's probably medieval, right?
Yeah.
Era painting that you would recognize. But there's like...
She's holding like
something.
a Taco Bell bag.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
There's like a...
So at first glance, you're like, oh, that's so like highbrow. But then when you look a little closer, you're like, oh, there's some humor
That actually
there.
reminds me, I have a piece that I purchased from her that like I bought last year and I just like never picked up. I should really...
Do it.
She's great.
Go meet your local artist.
I'll link her in the show notes. She's wonderful.
That's amazing. But I love those pieces in your home. And I think when you come to my home, I was looking around my room and realizing how many of my pieces have some sort of like spiritual undercurrent to them. I have a lot of
Oh, really?
pieces,
I haven't noticed.
with doves, because peace is a big deal with me. And I also really love the form of art that's called lino cutting or wood cutting, and I just really like that printing process. And it's gotten to the point where I can recognize it now. I've picked up a couple of pieces from the thrift store, actually, where I don't know the artists, that were made in like the 60s and 70s, because I can see from across the room, like I know what I like and I know that's the kind of art it is.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that process of knowing yourself is, I think, what art is so important for. I want my home to reflect who I am, and I want my children to know that they lived in a home where their parent proudly existed.
Yeah.
And I want them to be able to have that same feeling in the spaces that they're going to create, both now, but even in the future, you know? So making sure that the things that they love, we're bringing into the spaces as well. We're both boy moms.
Yeah.
There was this thing where
I don't identify as a boy mom, for the record. I identify as a mom of boys.
There you go.
Not boy mom.
I really was afraid to bring florals, to bring womanly figures, to bring other things like that into my space when I first realized I'm having boys and I am married. But I also realized what I was doing is I wasn't allowing myself to show up in the space. right?
Yeah. So consuming art is also the discussions to be had.
I would love to say participating instead of consuming.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
pull you from that because I feel like, yes, we consume art, but I think a good vision of what art is doing with you is you are participating in it.
But see, that makes a lot more sense though, because you are in a more tangible space with art.
I still think just watching a movie, you're participating because that art is not just made in a vacuum. That art is made and created for you to engage with it.
I like that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying we don't consume art. I just think consume
I think consume is a heavy word. There's a lot with that. Yeah, I can get on board participating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I think that we should participate. We should try to include other people because art is one of those things that is so much more beautiful in community.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's just sitting and watching a movie with somebody or having a conversation, whatever.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm here for people to create art. I'm here for people to participate in art. And I'm here for people to be an audience to art because I think any of those things just tap into more of our humanity.
Yeah.
I would just love to see people experience their art and their items and in a more confident way.
Yeah.
You know? And when people do that, I get excited.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up with a what's in our pockets.
Let's do that.
Okay.
For what's in our pockets, let's do what art thing are you currently kind of carrying around with you? What's in your pocket?
Okay. I have really been wrestling with this idea of what my role is around social media and figuring out how to do that because my initial jump into social media influencing was photography. I love photography. I love understanding color editing, what goes into a good photo. I really, really enjoy the process of editing photos. And as social media definitely moved to a more video heavy format, just kind of understanding what my role is in all of this. And also that I want to take a step back from just branding myself, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, I posted a reel yesterday, and I totally consider this art form because it takes a lot of work. I posted a reel that was not aesthetically pleasing, and it did okay. And it just makes me feel good to know that it doesn't all have to be pretty and perfect and the usual photos, that maybe my social media can be a reflection of how I change. Saying that you want to be a part of things that are not aesthetically pleasing with confidence is very, very different from actually doing it. And I did it. And I was really proud of myself. What about you? What's some art? I see you looking around right now. And honestly, guys, Abby has so much art in her studio.
The first thing I want to touch on is I have a friend that I made at the retreat we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking to her about how much I love to be read to out loud. And I read to my kids out loud all the time.
Kate Winslet and the Reader.
It's like one of my favorite things ever. And she was like, Abby, I'm going to call you on Marco Polo and read to you. And I will let you know that I let those Marco Polo videos sit for 3 weeks because I wanted to be in a headspace because I knew it was just going to make me emotional.
And that's just like a voice. That's like a voice
It's
demo,
just like
right?
a voice. Well, it's video. But yeah, it's like video of her. And she was just like, she just read me poetry. A friend that all she did was get on there and be like, here's 3 poems that I've really enjoyed. I think you'd enjoy. And she just read me this poetry. And I felt so loved and seen because poetry is one of those things where I don't really feel like I make a lot of time for it. I appreciate it. But sometimes also with poetry, I feel like you have to go through a lot maybe to get to the ones that mean something.
Yeah.
And so to have someone basically curate a little poetry playlist for me and then read it out loud to me, very, very special. She's such a special person. I'm so thankful to Erin for doing that for me.
Shout out Erin.
It goes back to what you were talking about, how art should be something we do collaboratively, like we do in community.
Yeah.
And I really felt that. I felt like this person was giving me a gift, right? So that's the first thing and how special that was. And I'm like, what a great way to love someone when you maybe don't have a lot of time or money or, you know, the ability to like, maybe somebody in your life would really just love you to read a poem to them. I don't know, something to think about. I was
That's really, I don't
amazed.
know.
It was
I
so
feel like
sweet.
that would hit a level of vulnerability in me that I'm like, I wasn't ready for.
I did cry, and then I like Marco pulled her back. I'm like, I've been holding on to this because I knew it would make me emotional. And she picked out 3 poems. They were just so perfect for me because she knows me. Like, how cool is that? And then I think the other thing I want to talk about are the mugs that I've been using.
The mugs, guys.
The mugs. We gotta talk about the mugs.
I've never seen so many mugs.
You know I have a handmade mug collection. And to me, the reason I love it is because it is the epitome of this idea that art can be functional. It can be a portal to knowing an artist. It can bring me to a place and a time. A lot of these mugs, I purposely picked out certain motifs during certain times of my life, or like in the last couple of years. And some of them are local, right? So they've created relationships with people who are artists that are local. And again, I really love that they're useful, actually. I love that they come alongside something that I do every day, which is drink coffee.
So I've looked around and I have counted. I can see 36 mugs just sitting here. And this is not the kitchen.
No, this is just my... Well, I have to they come out in shifts.
Gotcha.
So I actually haven't done the spring shift yet.
Stop it. Okay. I
was feeling we're in Lent right now when we do this, so I was feeling a little bit more somber and Lent-like, so the ones that are out are mostly darker colored.
I don't know what that means, Lent-like, but that's okay. That's another episode.
Huh. But yeah, they're items of art that come alongside my day. That to me brings art to this like an approachable space.
Yeah.
Right? And we're kind of talking about, sometimes I think people think art is that thing that's unapproachable. It's not. Like, art needs to be approachable. So yeah, those are my things.
Yeah.
Mugs and poetry.
I want to hear about how are you interacting with art?
Yeah.
Maybe take a minute and think about it while you're driving to work, while you're dropping your kid off, all of the things that you're doing that you would consider relatively mundane throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe look around and see what is around you that is actually art that maybe you didn't realize you were participating in, or maybe a spot where you want to participate in art more.
Yeah, I'd love to hear if you can identify an artistic experience that you are already having that you wouldn't have thought of calling artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming to the table with us.
Yeah. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.